My boyfriend thought I was too fat. At 121 pounds, I signed up for a gym and started working out like crazy. But the more I tried to lose weight, the more I gained. Meanwhile, my best friend, Chloe Woods, was doing late-night eating streams every single day, stuffing herself with steaks, seafood, and greasy takeout. Not only did she not gain weight, she dropped from 154 pounds to 143. Whenever my boyfriend started tearing into me even worse than before, I suddenly heard the tabby cat's voice in my head. You idiot. Chloe's got you trapped in a weight swap system. No matter how hard you try to lose weight, she's the one getting thinner. Every pound you lose is a pound she drops. She's trying to ruin you. I froze and turned to look at my best friend, Chloe. She was staring at my boyfriend without even trying to hide it, her eyes full of admiration. Then the tabby's voice exploded in my ears again. Chloe is obsessed with that trashy loser. Once she gets skinny, the two of them will hook up, and they'll team up to get you killed and spend your settlement money living a happy life. The moment I learned the truth, I smiled. Since my so-called best friend wanted to be skinny that badly, if I made her whole body weigh less than 40 pounds, she'd probably be very grateful to me, right? My boyfriend, Jason Miller, kept going, his voice full of contempt. Can you stop eating already? You've got a double chin now. You look like a pig. And you seriously think I'm supposed to propose to you looking like that? I'm telling you right now, if you don't get down to 100 pounds, forget about marriage. I looked at myself in the mirror, still trying to study myself. After the shock of hearing a cat's thoughts, I was 5'6" and weighed 121 pounds. That was a perfectly healthy, normal weight. But the way Jason talked, you'd think I was huge. I'd loved him so much before that I really had tried to lose weight. I was eating 1 meal a day. I was working out like crazy. I was practically starving and exhausting myself just to slim down, all because I wanted his approval. And not only did he not care, he kept mocking me the whole time. It was ice cold. Chloe stuffed the imported fruit I bought into her bag and chimed right in. Exactly, Jenna. It's not just the double chin now. Your arms are getting thick, too. You've got way too much flab. Honestly, I feel like you could punch Jason to death at this point. You sure this whole diet thing isn't just talk? Are you secretly sneaking good food behind everyone's back? If you keep getting fatter, Jason's really going to dump you. And when that happens, don't come crying to me. Before I could say a word, the tabby's voice exploded in my head again. What a vicious little bitch. The only reason my owner can't lose weight is because you bound her to that stupid weight swap system. Every pound my owner loses goes straight onto you. And every pound you gain from stuffing your face gets dumped onto her. That's why the more she diets, the fatter she gets. Owner, you may be the minor side character in the story, but you've actually got amazing luck. You have to stay away from this trashy man and this scheming witch. Not only are they going to get you killed after you die, they'll use your money to start a company and end up on top. Listening to the cat's furious rant, then seeing the gloating look on Chloe's face, something twisted hard in my chest. I'd known Chloe since high school. We've been friends for 10 years, graduated, struggled, and built our lives side by side. When she needed money, I gave it to her. When she had nowhere to stay, I took her in. When she had emotional breakdowns, I was the one who stayed up comforting her. I'd really thought we were inseparable. I never imagined she'd stab me in the back like this. But if all of this was true, then now was not the right time to turn on them. Jenna, are you deaf or what? Why aren't you saying anything? Jason snapped, already annoyed. I swallowed my anger and smiled. I heard you. I'll work hard and lose the weight. Don't worry. Really? Chloe's eyes lit up. Then do it right. 100 pounds is the prettiest weight for you. I kept stressing the number, and my eyes went cold, but on purpose. I wrapped myself around Jason's arm and spoke in a sweet, clingy voice. Of course, if my boyfriend wants me to lose weight, then I'll be a good girl and lose weight. Otherwise, how am I supposed to become his beautiful bride? Jason nodded, satisfied. Chloe's face darkened instantly, and her eyes filled with jealousy. The next second, she grabbed me and yanked me to my feet. Enough, Jenna. Don't act all lovey-dovey in front of me. You're so fat right now. Aren't you afraid you'll crush your boyfriend? Why don't you focus on an actual weight loss plan, instead of gaining even more? I let her drag me, my gaze turning colder. The jealousy was so obvious. How had I never noticed it before? How stupid had I been? I shook her hand off. I've already hired a private nutritionist. I also signed up for Pilates. I'm tackling both diet and body shaping. I'll slim down fast. Jason's interest sparked instantly. Pilates is great. I heard it really shapes your body. You know, curves in all the right places, tiny waist. He clicked his tongue. Jenna, you're not bad looking to begin with. If you get a killer body, that'll really boost your appeal. I'll look good taking you out too. so you better work hard. Chloe smiled, but there was something off about it. I took in every expression on their faces. Whatever love I had left disappeared. All that remained was disgust and hatred. I wanted to slap them both. One of them constantly tearing me down, acting like I was beneath him, a shallow, broke loser with a superiority complex. The other secretly manipulating things behind my back, stealing my weight, flirting with my boyfriend, and eventually teaming up with him to kill me, just so she could enjoy my money. What a perfect pair. Since fate had given me a glimpse of the future, I was going to use it. They were going to pay. The next day, I started my weight loss plan. Chloe dragged me out before sunrise for a run. Right after that, she happily went to grab burger and donuts for breakfast. I ran in the morning, worked all day, then pushed myself even harder at the gym. At night, my legs trembled from exhaustion. Hunger made my vision blur. By the time I finally got home and collapsed on my bed, I checked my phone. Jason had been liking and commenting on some girls' posts. Hey, cutie, wanna hang out? I'm single. I've got a 1-month business trip coming up, so I've got plenty of free time. My stomach turned with anger and disgust. I tossed the phone aside. So it wasn't just Chloe. He'd been cheating behind my back too. If it weren't for the tabby's voice, I would have still been in the dark. Without hesitation, I gave the tabby 2 big chicken drumsticks. And just like that, I heard its thoughts again. Wow, these drumsticks are amazing. My owner is so pretty and kind, but my silly, beautiful owner, you can't keep dieting like this. You're working yourself to the bone. And in the end, it's all benefiting that evil woman. I listened quietly, then pulled the tabby into my arms and kissed it. Don't worry, the real show hasn't even started yet. After a month of extreme dieting, I suggested going to an all-you-can-eat buffet, but I'd gained a noticeable amount of weight. I tried on several dresses I used to love. Some wouldn't go over my hips. Others tore at the waist. Jason had just come back from his business trip. The moment he saw me, his face went dark with anger. Eat, eat, eat. That's all you ever do. You've been dieting for over a month, and you went from 121 to almost 130. Your neck is practically merging with your face. I told you to lose weight. Why are you getting fatter? Instead, Chloe walked over, swaying her hips, covering her mouth in fake shock. Jenna, I told you not to slack off when dieting. Look at you. You spent all that money and got 0 results. You're so irresponsible. Unlike me, I didn't even join a gym. I eat a ton every day. I even do late-night eating streams, and I still lost 20 pounds. It's honestly so annoying. I looked at Chloe. She'd lost a lot of weight lately. Her face had slimmed down, and her already tall, slender figure looked even more defined. With her collarbones and toned midsection showing, she carried herself with a whole new kind of confidence. With makeup, her small eyes actually gave her that soft, delicate kind of pretty. I pretended not to notice the smug look on her face, and sighed in frustration. I don't even know what's going on. I barely eat anything every day, and my trainer works out with me. Why haven't I lost any weight at all? Seeing how defeated I looked, Chloe couldn't hide her smile anymore. Maybe it's just fate. I'm one of those lucky people. No matter how much fried chicken or burgers I eat, I still lose weight. Right, Jason? Jason was a practical man. He used to brush Chloe off. But now that she looked noticeably better, even his tone softened. Yeah, Chloe. With a body like yours, anyone would look good bringing you out. After exchanging looks with him, he turned back to me and started pressuring me again. Jenna, look at yourself. Then look at Chloe as a woman. Can you have some self-awareness? You're this fat, and you still think your life has meaning. I'm warning you, lose the weight if you can't even fit into your wedding dress, and end up embarrassing me at the wedding. Don't blame me if I stop being nice about it. You're not allowed to eat at the buffet tonight. I'm taking Chloe instead. Once you actually lose the weight, I'll take you. Chloe flipped her hair. Exactly, Jenna. Stay home and work out tonight. If you don't have the natural advantage, then you just have to work twice as hard. I didn't respond. The tabby bared its teeth in my head, ranting furiously. You shameless witch. You stole my owner's weight, and you still have the nerve to act like this. And you trashy loser. You don't even have as much money as my owner. What gives you the right to talk to her like that? Without her, you wouldn't even know where your next meal is coming from. I couldn't help but laugh. After watching them leave, I picked up the tabby and kissed it over and over. It's okay, baby. It's too early to say who's going to win. 3 months later, Jason and I held our wedding as scheduled. The wedding dress had been tailored for a 100-pound figure. I couldn't fit into it, so I grabbed a red gown and changed into that instead. The moment Jason saw me, his face twisted in disbelief. Jenna, it's been 3 months, and you didn't lose a single pound. You got even fatter. You're like a pig now. You've completely disappointed me. You don't deserve to be my bride. I was back to 121 pounds. I wasn't fat at all. He was just ridiculously picky. So he kept tearing me down. His relatives gathered around whispering and pointing. Didn't you say your fiancé had a great figure? Big chest and nice hips. Why does she look like this? How much does she eat every day? Even his parents looked at me with open disdain. I told my neighbors, Jason found a girl from the city, said she was beautiful. Look at her waist. Where's the elegance in that? This wasn't my first time meeting his parents. The first time I met his parents, I went back to his hometown with him. Their house was old and run down. From the moment I arrived, his parents picked me apart. The tonic I brought wasn't good enough. And the liquor I bought wasn't the right kind. Over dinner, his parents said, "People where we're from don't believe in taking money from the groom's family. It seems like selling your daughter. You understand that, right? You're a modern woman. And besides, you're an orphan. Your family can't contribute anything for the wedding. How can you take money from us?" Jason always told me how hard his parents had it, so I should be more understanding. I swallowed everything I could. I even thought I'd been lacking in manners back then. I was naive. I thought as long as Jason loved me, that was enough. Looking back now, it was laughable. They'd already been tearing me down before I even married into the family. Good thing I never actually married him. Otherwise, I would have walked straight into hell. I spread my hands casually. If you think I'm too fat, then call off the engagement. I'd always been the obedient type. Seeing my indifferent attitude, Jason snapped instantly. "Jenna, what's that supposed to mean? You think, just because the invitations are sent and the venue is booked, this wedding is set in stone, you think you can do whatever you want now? Dream on." There's a line of women chasing me all the way to France. A fat pig like you. I don't want you anymore. I cross my arms. Then don't. Just don't regret it. The only thing I'd regret is marrying a pig like you. Jason let out a sharp laugh. Then he grabbed the microphone and announced it to everyone. "Sorry to make a scene, everyone. I'm switching brides today. My new bride is the maid of honor. In terms of looks and body, she's 1,000 times better than Jenna Tanner. Everyone here can be my witness. I'm done with Jenna. Even if she comes crawling back to beg me, I'll never take her back." My smile deepened, but I said nothing. The guests started whispering. The maid of honor? Isn't that the bride's best friend? The bride isn't even ugly. And she's not fat either. If he's switching brides on the spot, the maid of honor must be stunning. Jason shot me a smug look. "Chloe, come on out. It's time for us to get married." Under everyone's eager gaze, Chloe slowly walked in from outside. But the moment they saw her, the entire room froze. Eyes widened, faces filled with shock. Jason's smug smile stiffened. Then he doubled over and started vomiting uncontrollably. The silence in the banquet hall was so absolute you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. It wasn't a gasp of awe that rippled through the crowd. It was a collective, breathless wave of primal horror. Jason was on his hands and knees, retching violently onto the pristine white aisle runner, his tailored tuxedo trembling with every heave. I stood at the altar, the red gown flowing around me, perfectly composed. I looked down the aisle at my former best friend. Chloe had achieved her dream. She was undeniably, catastrophically skinny. She looked like a corpse that had been dug up and forced into a pastel bridesmaid dress. The fabric, originally altered to fit a slender frame, now hung off her sharp, protruding collarbones like a deflated parachute. Her arms were nothing but bone shrink-wrapped in sallow, graying skin. Her face was the worst part. Without any facial fat, her cheekbones jutted out like knives, making her eyes look abnormally large, bulging and bloodshot. Her hair, once thick and glossy, was coming out in patchy clumps, unable to sustain itself without nutrients. She weighed, at most, 50 pounds. But the most chilling part was the smile plastered on her skull-like face. Because of the twisted nature of the weight swap system, her mind hadn't caught up with her body's physical decay. To her, she was a runway model. She was the pinnacle of fragile, delicate beauty. "Jason." Chloe's voice was reedy, paper-thin, lacking the breath support of a normal human. She took a frail, tottering step forward. Her ankles looked like they would snap under the meager weight of her own bones. "Baby, what's wrong? Is it the nerves?" Jason looked up, wiping bile from his mouth, his eyes wide with unadulterated terror. "Stay the hell away from me," he screamed, scrambling backward like a crab, ruining his trousers on the carpet. "What are you? What happened to you? What do you mean?" Chloe looked confused, her sunken, skeletal fingers touching her hollow cheeks. "I lost the weight, just like you like. I'm under 100 pounds now. I'm perfect for you." A woman in the second row, one of Jason's judgmental aunts, let out a piercing shriek and fainted entirely, slumping out of her folding chair. Panic erupted. People were backing away, covering their mouths, whispering frantically about anorexia, diseases, and calling an ambulance. "Oh, holy tuna. The tabby cat's voice echoed in my mind, purring with dark, infectious glee. Owner, you didn't just cook, you burned the whole kitchen down. Look at her. She looks like a dried-up praying mantis. I didn't let my smirk show, keeping my expression entirely neutral. Over the last 3 months, I hadn't just worked out. I had weaponized my body. Once I understood the rules of Chloe's parasitic system, that every calorie I burned was subtracted from her body, and every pound I was supposed to lose vanished from her instead, I turned my life into an extreme athletic boot camp. I secretly hired an ex-military endurance coach. I was swimming 2 miles every morning, doing high-intensity interval training in the afternoon, and lifting heavy weights at night. I was burning upwards of 4,000 calories a day. Normally, a regimen like that would cause rapid, dangerous weight loss. But the system protected me. It routed all of that physical deterioration straight to Chloe. Meanwhile, my body kept the cardiovascular health, the endorphins, and the stamina. Whenever Chloe sat in her room doing her late-night eating streams, stuffing her face with greasy pizzas and massive steaks, the system forwarded all those calories to me. But because I was burning 4,000 calories a day, Chloe's junk food merely fueled my intense workouts. I stayed at a perfectly healthy, athletic 121 pounds. Chloe, on the other hand, had her fat, her muscle, and eventually her very life force siphoned away by my treadmill. Jenna. Jason barked, his voice cracking as he finally managed to stand, pointing a trembling finger at me. What did you do to her? Is this a prank? Did you put makeup on her to humiliate me? I haven't seen Chloe in 3 weeks, Jason, I said calmly, my voice carrying over the murmuring crowd. It was true. I had moved into a private training facility for the final sprint of my revenge. She said she was on a strict diet for the wedding. I guess she took your advice to heart. You always did say a woman wasn't worth looking at if she had an ounce of fat on her. Jason's face flushed a deep, ugly purple. I didn't tell her to starve herself to death. Jason, Chloe whimpered, reaching out for him. As she moved, her knee buckled. She didn't have the muscle mass to support even her skeletal frame. She collapsed onto the floor like a pile of broken twigs. Help me up. Why is everyone looking at me like that? I'm beautiful. You said you loved my collarbones. Jason looked at her on the floor, his face twisted in utter revulsion. There was no pity in his eyes, only disgust. This was the man I had almost married. A man whose love was so shallow it couldn't even penetrate the epidermis. I picked up the microphone he had dropped. The screech of feedback silenced the remaining chatter in the room. Since the groom has decided to switch brides, and the new bride seems to be in need of immediate medical attention, I think it's safe to say this wedding is over, I announced. My voice was steady, void of any of the tears or hysteria Jason's family was clearly expecting. You crazy bitch, Jason snarled, trying to salvage his pride in front of his relatives. You think you've won? You're still fat, and you're still dumped. I'm taking my ring back. Oh, keep it, I smiled, reaching into the sweetheart neckline of my red dress and pulling out a small black USB drive. I walked over to the AV table, where the DJ was staring at the scene in shock. I plugged the drive into the laptop connected to the massive projector screen behind the altar. But before everyone leaves, there's a little wedding favor I'd like to share. I clicked the mouse. The screen flickered, and suddenly, massive screenshots illuminated the room. They were Jason's texts, not just the ones flirting with random girls online. There were texts between him and Chloe. Jason just gotta wait it out. Once I lock Jenna down, I'll convince her to let me manage her settlement money. Then I'll buy that sports car we talked about. Chloe, you better. She's so clueless, it's pathetic. Have you seen her arms lately? Disgusting. Just close your eyes and think of me when you're with her. Jason, always do, babe. You're the only one I want. Once I get the cash, we'll figure out a way to cut her loose, without losing the assets. The gasps this time were genuine, directed entirely at Jason. His parents, who had been loudly criticizing me just an hour prior, suddenly turned white as sheets. I clicked to the next slide. It was a comprehensive ledger of Jason's finances. For the record, I said, my voice echoing coldly through the speakers, Jason Miller doesn't have a dime to his name. He is currently $45,000 in credit card debt. The suit he's wearing? Bought with my card. The deposits for this venue? Paid by me. The car he drives his parents around in to show off? Registered in my name. I canceled the insurance on it this morning, by the way. Jason lunged toward the AV table. Turn that off. Turn it off right now. I stepped aside, letting him slam his hands onto the laptop. He was breathing heavily, his eyes darting frantically around the room at his relatives, who were now glaring at him with a mix of shock and utter embarrassment. His mother covered her face with her hands. You wanted to switch brides, Jason? You deserve each other, I said, looking down at Chloe, who was still on the floor, too weak to pull herself up. She was staring at the screen, her sunken eyes confused, her brain lacking the glucose to even process the betrayal properly. I turned my back on them, picked up the train of my red gown, and walked down the aisle. Jenna, wait. Jason's voice was laced with sudden, desperate panic. Without me, he had nothing. No money, no car, no future, and crushing debt. Jenna, we can talk about this. It was a joke. Chloe manipulated me. I didn't even break my stride. I pushed through the heavy mahogany doors of the banquet hall and stepped out into the crisp evening air. 10 out of 10. Flawless. A masterpiece. The tabby cat materialized from the bushes near the venue's entrance, trotting happily beside my heels. Did you see his face? He looked like he swallowed a lemon covered in hot sauce. Can we get sushi to celebrate? I want the expensive salmon. We're getting the biggest boat they have, I said softly, breathing in the fresh air. I felt lighter than I had in years, and it had nothing to do with my weight. The fallout over the next month was swift and brutal. I liquidated the shared apartment, taking everything I had paid for, which was practically everything, and moved into a luxury high-rise downtown with my cat. I blocked Jason's number, but I didn't block his emails. I needed the entertainment. He was fired from his job a week later. Turns out, when you use the company Wi-Fi to solicit escorts and badmouth your boss to your mistress, HR tends to frown upon it. Without my money to keep him afloat, his creditors came knocking. His parents, humiliated by the public exposure of his gold digging, refused to lend him a cent and fled back to their hometown. But Chloe's fate was a slow, agonizing descent into madness. She was rushed to the hospital from the wedding venue. The doctors were baffled. They diagnosed her with severe, late-stage anorexia nervosa, but they couldn't understand how her body was continuing to consume itself despite the feeding tubes. Because I hadn't stopped my workouts. In fact, with the wedding drama behind me, I had a lot of free time. I signed up for a half marathon and took up kickboxing. Every time I hit the heavy bag, burning hundreds of calories, I could almost feel the weight swap system frantically trying to pull fat from my body, failing, and ripping it straight out of Chloe's instead. But Chloe had no fat left. So the system started eating her muscles. Then it went for the bone marrow. One rainy Tuesday, I got a call from an unknown number. Jenna. The voice was a haunting, metallic wheeze. It sounded like air escaping a punctured tire. Who is this? I asked, though I already knew. It's Chloe, please, please. I took a sip of my matcha latte, looking out the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new apartment. The tabby cat was curled up on the rug, gnawing happily on a freeze-dried chicken heart. Chloe. Wow. I'm surprised you have the strength to hold a phone. I know you know. She sobbed. It sounded wet and hollow. The system, it's killing me. You have to stop. Please, Jenna. Stop exercising. Eat something. Please just eat a cake. Eat a dozen donuts. I'm begging you. My heart. The doctors say my heart is failing because the muscle is wasting away. I leaned back in my plush armchair. That's crazy, Chloe. You always told me how lucky you were. You told me you could eat whatever you wanted and stay skinny. You wanted to be under 100 pounds, right? You should be thrilled. I was wrong. I was greedy, she shrieked, the effort causing her to devolve into a violent, racking coughing fit. I bound the system to you because I was jealous. You had the money. You had Jason. I just wanted to take something from you. I wanted you to be the ugly, fat one for once. But it's broken. I can't turn it off. She's lying. The tabby piped up in my mind, lazily licking a paw. The system can be turned off, but the host has to willingly transfer all the stolen weight back to the victim, plus a penalty. She just doesn't want to be fat. She'd rather beg you to stop living your life. I smiled coldly. I heard you, Tabby. What? Chloe rasped over the phone. Who are you talking to? I know you can turn it off, Chloe, I said, my voice dropping an octave, losing any trace of polite pretense. But you won't, because if you sever the system, all the weight you dumped on me, all the calories you stole, will rebound onto you. You'd blow up to 250 pounds overnight. You'd rather die a skeleton than live as a fat woman. You're that vain. Silence on the other end, save for the shallow, rattling sound of her breathing. I had hit the nail on the head. Jenna, please, she whispered, realizing her manipulation had completely failed. If I take it back, my organs will crush themselves under the sudden weight gain. My body can't handle the shock now. I'll die either way. Have mercy. Just rest for a week. Let me recover. I looked down at my hands that had cooked for her, wiped away her tears when guys broke her heart, handed her cash when she couldn't make rent. For 10 years, I had loved her like a sister. And she had looked at me like a bank, a dumping ground for her insecurities, and an obstacle to be destroyed. I'm running a half marathon this Sunday, Chloe, I said softly. I'm aiming for a personal best. Wish me luck. I hung up and blocked the number. Savage. The tabby purred approvingly. Now, what's for lunch? I'm thinking Wagyu beef. If you eat a pound of it, The system will probably try to heal her, but since you're running 5 miles tonight, it'll just give her whiplash. Wagyu it is, I agreed, scratching the cat behind the ears. Sunday arrived, bright and clear. The starting gun went off, and I ran. I didn't run with hatred, or anger, or vengeance. I just ran for myself. For the feeling of the wind against my face, for the strength in my legs, for the lungs that pumped air flawlessly through my chest. I felt incredibly alive. As I crossed the finish line at 2 hours and 10 minutes, a massive wave of exhaustion hit me, but it was followed by a strange, sudden sensation. It was like a heavy, invisible chain that had been wrapped around my chest suddenly snapped. The air rushed into my lungs easier. The world seemed a fraction brighter. Ding, ding, ding. The tabby's voice echoed in my mind, sounding unusually solemn. The connection is severed, owner. The system has dissolved. I grabbed a bottle of water from a volunteer, pouring it over my head, catching my breath. She turned it off? I thought back to the cat. No, the tabby replied. The host has expired. The system no longer has a living vessel to tether to. I stopped walking. I looked up at the bright blue sky. Chloe was dead. Her vanity, her jealousy, and her wicked little system had finally consumed her entirely. There was no grand explosion, no cinematic showdown. She just faded away in a sterile hospital bed, a victim of her own trap. I didn't feel a drop of sadness. I just felt free. Hey, Jenna. I turned. Pushing through the crowd of runners and spectators, looking disheveled and frantic, was Jason. He looked terrible. He had lost weight, but not in a healthy way. His face was unshaven, his eyes had dark, heavy bags beneath them, and the designer clothes I had bought him were wrinkled and stained. He looked like a man who had been sleeping in his car. Jenna. Thank God, he panted, jogging up to me. He tried to put on that charming, boyish smile he used to use to get me to pay for expensive dinners, but it just looked desperate now. I saw your name on the marathon registry. I knew you'd be here. I stepped back, crossing my arms. What do you want, Jason? Chloe's dead, he blurted out, as if delivering the news would somehow make me grateful to him. The hospital called me because I was still listed as an emergency contact. She died this morning. Heart failure. I know. He blinked, thrown off by my utter lack of reaction. Right. Well. Listen, Jenna, she's gone. The person who ruined our relationship, the person who manipulated both of us, she's gone. We're free. I stared at him. The audacity of this man was genuinely staggering. We. Yes, we. He took a step closer, reaching out to grab my hand. I smacked it away hard enough to make him wince. Jenna, come on. I was an idiot. I admit it. I got blinded by whatever she was doing. But you and we had something real. Remember how much you loved me? Remember the wedding we planned? We can still have that. I forgive you for the slideshow thing. We can start over. I actually laughed out loud. It bubbled up from my chest, loud and genuine, drawing stares from the people around us. You forgive me? I wiped a tear of mirth from my eye. Jason, you are homeless, jobless, and drowning in debt. You don't want me. You want my bank account. You're looking for a life raft because you're drowning in the consequences of your own actions. His face hardened, the mask slipping. You owe me, Jenna. I gave you 2 years of my life. You think anyone else is going to love you? You're an orphan. You have nobody. Without me, you're just going to die alone with that stupid cat. I looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't a threat. He wasn't a monster. He was just a pathetic, small man throwing a tantrum because he couldn't play with his toys anymore. I'd rather die alone with my cat than spend one more second breathing the same air as a parasite, I said. My voice was calm, final. Never contact me again, Jason. If you come near me, I'll have you arrested for stalking. And trust me, you can't afford the legal fees. I turned my back on him and walked away. He stood there, screaming obscenities, cursing my name, throwing a pathetic fit in the middle of the street. I didn't look back. Eventually, event security grabbed him and hauled him away. That was the last time I ever saw Jason Miller. I heard through the grapevine a year later that he was working the night shift at a gas station, living in a cramped studio apartment, half his paycheck garnished by credit card companies. As for me, I walked back to my luxury apartment. The tabby cat was waiting by the door, tail twitching in anticipation. So, the cat purred, rubbing against my leg as I took off my running shoes. The witch is dead, the loser is banished, and you've got a killer set of abs. What's the next chapter, owner? I picked up the tabby, burying my face in its soft fur, listening to the deep, comforting rumble of its purr. Whatever we want it to be, I smiled. But first, let's get those drumsticks.